a lot of information here, and we've discussed this. We've discussed this issue to no end, and I feel like most of the people in the audience and around this board know where people stand in terms of whether they feel we should wait through November or not wait through November. We have a revised timeline, and in that revised timeline, it was clarified for us from the State Preservation Agency that November 5th is the last day that Kenilworth, as a village, has control of our application. It's not the last day that the application could be pulled from the state's agenda, but it is the last day that Kenilworth as a village has control of it. After that, I believe November 21st is the last day that someone who sits on the Illinois Historic Sites Advisory Council would then have to make a motion to pull it. So that's why I'm potentially asking for a special meeting on November 5th. But
I would just like to let everybody know here in the room that we will have the blessings of both votes before any decision will be made. We'll have the referendum, and we will have the homeowners, property owners, vote to tally. So we'll have all that before us before anything is going to be decided. So I think that may rest them a little bit.
So if I can ask Tom, to Katie's point back about 3 hours ago, with regard to would we as a board then be willing to, after the November 4th election, viewing the results of the referendum, meet in time to make that decision in a proper time period.
So that can be made anytime. Doesn't have to be made today.
Right. I would like to consider that at a future meeting once the closing period has happened on referendum.
So everybody knows we will have two votes. The two things we'll review.
Right now the question isn't even set. The closing, it's not closed yet until August 18th.
But it seems that the community, again, and as I have said numerous times, and what Audrey said was just wait. If we can just wait to hear whether the referendum, there's obviously one thing that I've heard, and we've heard tonight, there's been a petition to push forward on the National Historic District Register. I looked at all the signatures. I will tell you they're not all property owners. They're not. I looked at the opposition petition. I will tell you I saw a lot of names that were also not all property owners. The telephone survey, whether it was legitimate or not or whatever, all the numbers are in the 200 some odd person category. It tells me that there is controversy, there is split in the community, and maybe we'll get more clarity. And that's what I've said all along. Maybe, not, we may not, but we might actually get some clarity on November 4th, where it may be 75 to 25, it may be 90-10, it may be 50-50. And then, as a board, then we should make this decision. And that's what I...
Consideration of scheduling of November 5, 2008 special village board meeting to discuss results of the November 4, 2008 advisory referendum. And that came up in our last meeting, and I said I'd put it on this meeting for discussion and action. Please.
I have a comment about that. As I recall, I was silent on this issue when it came up at the last board meeting because I was trying to figure out why would we meet the morning after the referendum to make any kind of decision. And reading the minutes, it states that that's the last day the village supposedly has control over the nomination. But looking at the timeline and looking at the letter that has come from our consultant, Ted Hill, that does not appear to be the last time that the village is in the driver's seat as to if and when we would ever want to consider withdrawing the nomination. His comment was that he can't imagine the council ever refusing to allow us to withdraw that. And it seems to me that we're to meet the morning after when we have a board meeting 5 days later seems to be creating a false crisis when the way this board typically makes decisions is very thoughtfully and deliberately. And if we waited 5 days till our board meeting, we'd have time to digest the results, think about what they mean. Referendum is one more piece, and we need to treat that as we've treated every other piece throughout this process, thoughtfully, carefully, deliberately. and to meet the following morning when we've not had time to digest what it means, what it tells us, I think goes against the way we've made all of our other decisions. So I would like to make a motion that we not meet the morning after, but that we consider these results at the board meeting.
If I could clarify just one comment to Trustee Vasu's comment. The timeline talks about the village submitting a letter to request withdrawal or deferral.
Right.
The ISAC, the Illinois Historic Sites Advisory Council, would have to take action on that request.
Right.
The November 5th date is the date the agenda is set by the state at the Historic Preservation Agency. So if the village would request withdrawal prior to the agenda being set, there would not be action by the Historic Sites Advisory Council. That's the distinction between the two dates. And I just want to make sure that in terms of the timeline, that's what I understand from Andrew Hecking.
What was the purpose of the special meeting on November 5?
The purpose of, in my opinion, the purpose of the special meeting is that is the last, the way I'm understanding the facts, that is the last day Kenilworth has control of the application in terms of taking, letting our residents know that we're listening from the perspective of getting those referendum results. They may be, as we've talked about, a 40-60 or something that is not super definitive, in which case it comes to this board to talk about. We would choose to talk about it on the 5th, as well as talk about it probably at our November meeting. But if the results were definitive in one way or the other, they may choose to, the board may choose action one way or the other. And it seems that that is the last day that we have the ability to dictate it. And rather than leaving it in the hands of someone at the state board to say, I choose to make a motion to take it off or to keep it on or whatever, it's our decision up until close of business on November 5th. So we as a board can tell our citizens in advance and be responsible about it and set our parameters well in advance of recognizing we're going to take the results as they're stated on the Board of Elections website at a set date. And we as a board are talking about it and setting it way in advance. So it's not an emergency thing. It's not setting up any kind of huge big fire drill. We're saying well in advance, we're very aware that this is the state's agenda. We're being responsible about how we're planning for it. We're going to have results from unofficial, but results from Cook County as of the referendum information. And we as a board should just meet and be able to talk about what those results are on the morning of the 5th so that we can have some potential action or not. We may as a board choose not to have any action on the 5th. That's our choice as well. But we may want to have action and be able to have full control of that application versus leaving it into the hands of somebody at the state board.
To take into consideration the results of the referendum.
Correct.
I'd just like to ask, what difference does it make if it's on the agenda, if we want to withdraw it by the 21st of the month or thereafter? It seems to me that when I first thought about your comment last month, I was willing to go along with it, but there's 5 days later, we'll have the regular meeting. It seems to me that's plenty of time now.
Other thing is, I do want to have time to consider the results. I don't want to be rushing into a meeting at 9 a.m. I just don't see a reason to do that when we can do it at the following board meeting.